Okay, so I never thought I'd be the one to speak on internet beef and drama stirring up. However, there is something going on in the Obsidian community that I wanted to touch on that I thought was kind of interesting, especially since I had a similar mindset and then I came to a different conclusion. And it seems like pretty much everybody is agreeing with me, essentially. And I'm not saying I'm not even part of this argument, really. I commented a couple times, but that was about it. So the situation is Tiago Forte, who is the person behind the second brain concept and popularized it quite a bit, and then like talks about the para method. Now, this is not a dip or diss onto Tiago, although I will say I fundamentally disagree with the second brain concept because it's more geared towards specialist, and my PIOS system is more geared towards generalist and polymathic people. And so personally, I never liked the second brain method, para method specifically, because of that limitation. However, nothing against Tiago personally. In fact, I learned from his content way back when. And a lot of people responded to this, and I'm going to share my screen here in a moment. And it's just interesting to me the level of upsetness he has had towards this concept. And I wanted to touch on it because I think a lot of people have experienced something similar. And I think that that needs to be kind of nipped in the bud. So the screen share right here. Essentially, first and foremost, he's like, can anybody recommend a dead simple, easy to use note taking app based on markdown files? Obsidian's far too complicated for me. Cool. Apple Notes is ungodly super simple. I was gonna maybe reply note plan, and at one point I tried replying with a plugin. However, I don't think he really cared or noticed. However, this this obsession for simplicity always drives me nuts. There's a bell curve. I'll look it up real quick. It's interesting to me that people try to find the PKM bell curve, the most simple minimalist app or whatever, and it's just like you don't need to. All you need to do is just simply use the app. Whatever you use is what's actually useful. And that is where I think a lot of people mess up. So there's the bell curve here where people are like, oh, if it's simple, then like you have a low IQ, so you're going to use that. So you're not actually organizing your life. But then you get into the middle and you're like, okay, I'm going to jump between Rome and then Notion and Obsidian, blah, 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 blah. And you get in this kerfuffle. And then you go to the quote unquote enlightenment, like, oh, the simplicity is where it's at. But Apple Notes sucks. Google Notes sucks, or Keep, or whatever it's called. And so using this bell curve is actually kind of a misleading, and I don't like that. I'll actually keep this page open so I can link to this blog post at the bottom too. Now, I want to just kind of go into some of the stuff that he goes on about right here, where essentially he throws a fit about this, fine, and then like he starts replying to it. So Rory, a lot of people in this space, people like Sebastian, Rory, Nick Milo, and I actually have some of these tabs open, but essentially they're all right here. People who are well known in the space and who know their stuff really well. And actually, I'm going to look into Talaria here soon too, because that looks pretty cool. I didn't actually know about it. But this kind of obsession for of like, hey, I can't use Obsidian, let me use something else. And it's just like, no, like Nick Milo said, you won't like the answer, but the answer is still Obsidian. Obsidian is the best. And that isn't just my opinion, that is just truth. And it's frustrating even to me because I've looked for other alternatives to Obsidian too. It's not like I love Obsidian for the sake of Obsidian. I love Obsidian because it just literally is the best. And there's pros and cons to that, and the interface is one of them. But if you look at my interface here, can I share my screen without it freaking out? Let me minimize this, close this down, and then screen share, switch this to Obsidian. There. So essentially, like, yes, this is a lot going on, but I have my file tree, I have basically my content ecosystem database is just a daily view right here, my to-do list, and then like some quick links and a calendar for my journals. Not that complicated. And theoretically, it could even be simpler than this, and you could just like not use your sidebars if you didn't want to. So like this kind of obsession for like, oh, I need something even simpler. It's like you can make this as simple as you want. I got rid of the ribbon bar for the longest time, and actually I replaced it with up here because like I wanted to simplify the interface, and I just put it all over here. All the stuff I needed, I just used a commander palette thing, and it fixed it. So let me put this back to Opera. Minimize this. It won't let me switch. Why? That's so weird. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's automatic. So again, it comes down to like the way you interact with it, and also using Claude Code to help you organize, or using Claude to just interact with it. You don't even have to touch Obsidian anymore. That is the crazy thing right now. I think a lot of people don't realize you can use RAG and Claude.md to just have your Obsidian vault right there, and then not actually access it yourself, and just use Claude to access it for you. That's something you can do too. Let's look at some other responses here. So this is where the beef kind of comes in a little bit, where it's like, yes, he's stirring the pot, and I think that there is some interesting dynamics to this. So again, I'll link to these down below, but yeah, I stopped replying to it, and then he was saying something like his follow-up post here is saying something about how the files get saved. Yes and no. Like, yes, the basis files are JSON based, but you can just export them as CSV. There's so many Obsidian stats. There's so many plugins that you can get on here that are just like, there's all kinds of different plugins you can find. And then if you go into the beta tab, there's even more stuff. So personally, I like using the calendar basis. And so right here, you can add the calendar to your base. And so it's calendar view, I think is the one I'm using. Actually, I don't even think it's a data, it's not even a beta plugin anymore. It's a normal plugin. So the database view for calendar was a beta plugin that I was using. I wanted that, and so I was able to change it. And so by going on here, there's 1,300 plugins that I'm sure Tiago and a lot of other people have not even seen, because no one ever looks on here. And then not to mention the regular plugins that are all on the same marketplace that's on when you go into actual Obsidian and look for plugins. So these are all the ones you can find there. And then there's other people too talking about like you won't like the answer, but still it's Obsidian. Nendo, who I interviewed on my content creator channel, like again, you can just export. Like there's just so much silliness to the level of intensity that he was getting to this idea, when there's so many options that you don't have to worry about the export. First off, everything you put into Obsidian is marked out. So even the Kanban boards, right? If you have a Kanban board with the Kanban plugin, it's still a markdown file. Yes, you can no longer access it as a Kanban board, but it's pretty simple to just change it to another Kanban down the line. And I mean, I wouldn't say super simple, but it's simple enough. At one point, I was messing around with plugins, and I found myself at a point where, okay, I had a calendar view from the plugin I was using and a calendar view from the one I was trying out. The one I was trying out messed up my markdown file, and so when I uninstalled it, I could no longer view the original calendar. Why am I telling you this? Well, it took me like 5 minutes. I went into Notepad, edited the markdown file, removed whatever proprietary code, or more like CSS snippet that plugin added, and it fixed my thing. You could just do that, or more than likely, you'll just ask Claude, hey, I used the Kanban plugin, here is my note. Can you help me translate it for the Kanban and Affine, or whatever tool you are moving to? It is so, like, simple to do transfer between different things. I had to move from Notion to Obsidian manually. There was no CSV importer. There was no regular importer anyways. I had to take everything, copy and paste it manually. Because when I tried to export from Notion, it had those weird 18-digit numbers behind every title. It had a whole bunch of formatting issues because Notion was hell to export from. They didn't want you to leave it, and so they made everything proprietary. Obsidian doesn't do that out of the box. The plugins might. When you add plugins and specialized plugins, that's going to do that. Yes, the canvas can be a little bit iffy, but you can just export it to Excalidraw. Excalidraw is a separate tool. I don't know why he was complaining about Excalidraw. So my point is, everything Tiago was frustrated about is essentially null and void because there's ways around it. There's ways to export if you want to leave Obsidian. I left Obsidian for Affine and then Anytype, and I didn't fully move into those, but I did fully move into Acrium, which was another markdown-based tool, and it actually messed up my metadata for a lot of my content that I was trying to plan out. So I actually had a hard time when I went back. Guess what? You can just use a plugin. Like when I went back to Obsidian a year later or half a year later, I just used a plugin to replace all the metadata. I had to do it manually. I lost some data when it came to what day did I do that post, but that wasn't super important. And so you can just go in and use another plugin to fix it if you're going to come back. Because I assure you, Tiago's going to probably come back to Obsidian at some point. There's a reason why everyone uses it.